The sound hits first, a low, tearing roar that slams through canvas and glass and drives people toward the beach. A white vapor cloud rolls across the road and into the Los Alfaques campground, cold at the edges and glittering in the noon sun. Someone shouts in German. Dishes clatter in a trailer. The cloud thickens, and then the world turns bright. A fireball blooms outward and down, flattening tents, stripping paint from cars, and blowing out every window that faces the highway. Heat throws people backward. Hair flashes, clothes flare. Those who can still move run for the water with their arms outstretched, leaving black footprints in the sand. The wind brings the smell of fuel and burned plastic. In seconds, a vacation ground turns into a burn ward with no walls. It is July 11th, 1978, on Spain's Mediterranean coast near Alcanar, south of San Carles de la Rapita. The national road N340 runs tight along the shore. The Los Alfaques campground sits wedged between that road and the sea, separated by a low wall. Late that morning, a Pegaso tractor hauling a Fruhoff tank trailer leaves the Empatrol refinery in Tarragona. The cargo is liquefied propylene, highly flammable, kept liquid by pressure. The vehicle belongs to Cisternas Reunidas. The driver is alone. His route keeps him on the coastal highway at midday, passing directly by a crowded beach camp in high season. Just after noon, the tanker reaches the wall. Witnesses later recall the vehicle moving unsteadily close to the curb, as though searching for the shoulder. Within moments, the vessel fails. Liquefied propylene flashes to gas and spills across the ground as a low, cold cloud, heavier than air and hugging the surface. The campground is full. Families from West Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, and Spain eating lunch or napping in the shade. A discotheque near the entrance keeps staff on duty. Somewhere on that edge, an engine, a pilot light, a kitchen flame, the vapor finds a spark. The boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion is instant. The pressure wave is minor, the heat is not. A globe of fire rolls across the camp and into the parking rows, turning cars into furnaces and tents into fuel. The first minute kills most of the victims. Cars slump on their rims. Aluminum drips. People who can still move run into the sea or toward the road with clothing on fire. Others collapse behind walls that no longer exist. The tank tears apart. Sections fly across the road and into the camp. More than 90% of the main camping area burns. The driver dies where the tractor stood. When the flame front passes, the noise drops to the crackle of hundreds of small fires and the sound of voices calling names that no one answers. There is no coordinated response at first. Survivors load the burned into vans and cars and drive in both directions. Locals who heard the blast do the same. The plume is still rising when the first ambulance arrives. Municipal ambulances and the fire brigade follow. Civilians and police clear lanes through wreckage and try to move people away from the hottest ground. The shattered trailer blocks the highway like a gate, splitting evacuation routes. To the north, patients reach hospitals with burn units and fluid support. To the south, long transports without early treatment turn shock into a second killer. Many who leave alive do not survive the first days. The place explains the reach of the fire. The campground's legal capacity is a few hundred, but in midsummer it holds far more. The site is long and narrow. Cars sit close to tents and trailers. Propane stoves and lanterns dot the rows. A low wall is the only barrier between vacations and a national road. On that road, a pressure tank loaded with liquefied gas fails at the worst possible point. The physics of a bleave set the scale. When a hot, overpressured tank ruptures, the liquid inside flashes to vapor. The expanding cloud becomes fuel for a fireball that does its worst at ground level, exactly where people are standing. Investigators gather fragments and paperwork. Two large sections of the vessel lie on opposite sides of the road. A middle ring lands deep inside the camp. Cars are burned to their frames. The center grid is a melted field. Technical experts examine the cargo manifest, the tank's capacity, and loading records. The Spanish court will later find that the tanker was overfilled and that failure followed from that fact. Analysts point to the route and the hour, a coastal highway at midday, beside a packed campground, in heat that pushes pressure higher. As the case moves forward, managers and technicians face charges of criminal negligence. Fines and prison terms follow. Families arrange repatriation. The campground's owners count the dead. The human record is the hardest to absorb. Families ran with children who had been asleep minutes earlier. Tourists with deep burns grabbed buckets from the surf and poured seawater on strangers. Many tried to reach the waterline. Some made it and collapsed in the shallows. Others stayed pinned on hot sand by pain or by the scattered wreckage of trailers and cars. Identification takes months. In the week after the blast, severely burned patients are flown home to France, West Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. More than 200 people die from the blast and burns. Hundreds are injured. The death toll keeps rising through the summer as the worst burns claim their victims. The disaster forces changes. Spain tightens rules on hazardous materials transport, routing away from crowded areas, restricting daytime passage through populated stretches, and enforcing safe fill limits and inspections. Emergency medicine studies use the event as a case study in mass burn care. Airway first, fluids fast, direct to burn centers, and never turn a divided highway into two unequal lifelines again. In engineering journals, the broken tank becomes a lesson in how pressure, temperature, and fill level can align to destroy a vessel in seconds. For a time, the site looks like a war zone. Vacationers' plates, burned black, sit on the frames of plastic tables. A child's shoe lies where a tent row used to be. The campground office is a shell. From a distance, the sea is still blue. Up close, the sand is fused to glass. Residents from nearby towns walk the perimeter in silence. Bulldozers scrape paths for recovery crews and then for rebuilding. The campground reopens in the years that follow. Survivors return to lay flowers and to stand where a wall and a road once met a tank and a spark. There is no single arc that can hold all of it. A driver did not make it home. Workers in a nearby building died at their posts. Families from several countries buried their dead or waited months to reclaim them. Prosecutors pursued negligence. Regulators rewrote rules. Engineers mapped a failure that still appears in textbooks. And every July, local papers run the same image: a line of burned trailers at crooked angles and a column of smoke bending out to sea. If you stand at the pull-off on the N340 today and look toward the water, the distances are short. From the wall to the shore is a few steps. From the road to the center of the old camp is not far. On any normal day, the layout would feel safe: families just off the beach, traffic a few feet away, and a wall to keep the sand in order. On one day in July 1978, that layout turned into a trap the moment propylene hit air and found a flame. More than 200 people died there, and hundreds were burned. The system that should have kept a dangerous cargo away from a crowded shore failed at every point that mattered. At the loading rack, on the manifest, on the route, and finally on the edge of a summer campground. Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.